Here's a fun confession. Every time I download free software, I brace for impact. Not because I think it's dangerous, because I'm convinced I'm the one running the scam. Like I've tricked an entire industry by clicking download instead of buy now. And any second, a tech support guy is going to kick down my door and ask for back pay. It's the same feeling you get when you see a bowl of candy with a little sign that says, "Please take one." Except this bowl is apparently stapled to a $40 billion global ecosystem. I'm standing there with a Snickers thinking, who paid for this? And the internet just shrugs. Normal people hear free software and assume it's a virus. Tech people hear it and start whispering like it's a sacred chant. Meanwhile, somewhere, an exhausted developer and their cat are holding a board meeting in a living room, and somehow that's where the whole mystery starts. Have you ever learned a fact so alarming it loops back around and becomes comforting? Like finding out most of the world's encrypted traffic is maintained by what feels like two people and maybe a dog. And the dog is probably the project manager. This is the part of free software nobody mentions because it sounds made up. Huge chunks of the internet, the parts you really hope are solid, are run by people who got bored on a Saturday and thought, yeah, I'll write a cryptography library. How hard can it be? Next thing they know, they've accidentally built OpenSSL, and half the world is leaning on their hobby like it's a load-bearing wall. Linux is even funnier. Every server you've ever used, every website you've ever opened, every smart fridge silently judging your eating habits, all running on code written by people procrastinating on their actual jobs. If you did the math, you'd find that roughly 98% of the internet was built during someone else's lunch break. I haven't checked that number, but it feels right in my soul. And eventually, all these volunteers hit the same wall. Wait, do I need to make money off this somehow? That's when things start getting creative. Here's a question nobody likes asking out loud. When was the last time you actually clicked a donate button on a piece of software you use every day? Exactly. We all treat those buttons like they're part of the decor. Like a museum gift shop where you confidently walk through, touch nothing, and leave with the moral high ground. GitHub Sponsors is the funniest example of this. It's basically slipping $1 into a street musician's guitar case, except the musician is also running your company's entire authentication service, and has been for 5 years, on a laptop they bought used. There are projects with millions of weekly downloads that get donations so small they wouldn't cover lunch at a mid-tier airport, not even the sad sandwich that looks like it already gave up. I tried donating once. Immediately felt like I'd broken some kind of unspoken rule, like the developer was going to email me personally and ask why I was being weird about it. I closed the tab so fast I think I hurt my wrist. And that's why the grown-ups eventually step in. The companies. The ones who actually have money and, apparently, opinions. Picture a Fortune 500 company rummaging through the open source world the same way your uncle rummages through the clearance bin at a hardware store, just holding up random tools like, yeah, this'll hold the whole house together, and then walking out without paying. Eventually, someone stops them and says, sir, maybe contribute something? And that's where sponsorships come in. There's this whole tier system that feels like a Kickstarter campaign nobody meant to start. Tier 1 is basically, we'll put your logo somewhere microscopic, like you might need a microscope app on your phone to even confirm it's there. But technically, congratulations, you're supporting open source. Tier 2 is when the company gives real money and pretends open source isn't just an elaborate scheme for getting free labor. They send a nice email about alignment with shared values, which is corporate for, please don't let this thing break, our entire cloud depends on it. Tier 3 is where it gets intense. The company would like to influence the roadmap, which is a polite way of saying they now talk to the developer like they're a landlord chasing rent. Suddenly, there are check-ins, expectations, timelines, a Slack channel that never sleeps. And once companies get that invested, it leads to an even weirder situation, where they start hiring people just to keep doing exactly what they were already doing, for free. Here's a twist no one warns you about. Sometimes the best way to make money from free software is to accidentally build something so useful that a giant corporation appears one morning and says, hi, we'd like to pay you to keep doing that. It's like getting hired because you were really committed to a bit. I love the stories behind this. There's always some programmer who wrote a tiny tool at 2 a.m. to solve a dumb problem, posted it online, and forgot it existed. Then one day they wake up to an email from IBM asking if they're available for a quick sync. Nothing good ever starts with a quick sync. You open the call and there are 6 people in suits, all asking about your long-term vision. And you're sitting there in pajama shorts, hoping they can't tell. That's the moment you become a, quote, professional open source maintainer, which sounds like a job a kid would make up to get out of chores, but it's real, it pays well, and it is responsible for about 70% of all developer imposter syndrome. Because nothing messes with your confidence like getting a salary to maintain a hobby you built while procrastinating on laundry. And once money gets involved, things naturally drift toward the next frontier, making a version that isn't free anymore, but also still is. If you really want to confuse someone, tell them a piece of software is free, but the support for the free software costs more than their car. Watch their brain try to reboot itself in real time. It's beautiful. This is where free software pulls off its favorite magic trick, the freemium model. The software costs nothing. Zero. Take as much as you want. But the minute you need help, now it's emotional. Now it's, oh, you want support? You want someone to fix the thing you assembled upside down at 3 a.m.? Sure. That'll be 10 grand. It's basically IKEA, but for servers. And then there's the Enterprise Edition, which is usually the exact same software with like 3 extra buttons that look expensive. Big companies lose their minds over buttons. Doesn't matter what they do. Put a Chrome outline on one, and suddenly procurement is throwing money like it's a sporting event. Red Hat, GitLab, tons of companies have mastered this. They give away the recipe, then charge you for the chef, the waiter, the plate, and half the table. And honestly, good for them. If someone wants to pay premium prices to avoid reading documentation, that's between them and their CFO. But all of this leads to the final twist. Free software might be free, but everything around it definitely isn't. And that's where the irony really gets loud. Here's the funny part. After all this talk about free, it turns out free software might be the most expensive idea the tech world ever had. Not because you pay for the software, but because everything orbiting it quietly sends your wallet to therapy. Remember that candy bowl from the beginning? At this point, it's no longer sitting on a reception desk. It's part of a corporate acquisition. There's a legal team arguing about who technically owns the bowl. Someone is writing a press release about synergies, and you're just standing there holding a single peanut M&M, wondering how this became your life. People always ask, so how does free software actually make money? And the answer is yes. Just yes. All of the above. Donations, sponsorships, support contracts, big companies hiring people so they don't accidentally break the internet during a weekend update. Capitalism looked at the word free and said, cute, let's monetize that. Meanwhile, the entire internet continues running mostly on goodwill, caffeine, and the fear that pushing a breaking change will summon 40,000 angry strangers into your inbox. And somehow, against all odds, it works.